Once Pakistan founder of the nation, Muhammad Ali Jinnah said, "We have undoubtedly achieved Pakistan, and that too without bloody war, practically, peacefully, by moral and intellectual force, and with the power of the pen, which is no less mighty than that of the sword, and so our writer's cause has triumphed." Are we now going to besmirch and tarnish this greatest achievement, for which there is no parallel in the history of the world? Pakistan is now a fait accompli, and it can never be undone. Besides, it was the only just, honorable, and practical solution of the most complex constitutional problem of this great subcontinent. Let us now plan to build and reconstruct and regenerate our great nation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Nazmul Islam. You are watching Natural Civilization's 9th episode at Natural TV. Welcome to our program again, and today we will talk and discuss on Pakistan and its role in the Middle East, its relations with the Western countries, especially USA, and its role in Afghanistan, Kashmir, and Pakistan perspective on India and China. Today, to discuss on this issue, we invited one of the most scholar, important and a very gorgeous scholar and researcher, Mr. Omar Karim, to this our program, The Natural Civilization.
Thanks.
Omar Karim, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I just want to inform you, this our program, we till now this program we cover almost 8 episodes, and we try to cover this every country. Till now we started by the specific issue of Rohingya issue, then we talk on Chinese rise, we talk also the Indians rise in 21st century. Also we talk about the Somalia as the Horn of Africa, the importance of Somalia, and also we talk on Kenya. We talk on Ukraine and Russia's relations. We talk on the Turkish immigration policy and how Turkey is governing the refugees and integration of refugees in Turkey. So this is our 9th episode. We are going to talk on the Pakistan and its importance to make a good relations beyond its foreign policy and internal policy. As we know, Mr. Karim, you are working in a Russia. There's one of the most top research organization in London, and you are also London-based researcher and a doctoral researcher at the University of Birmingham. So as I said, welcome again to our program. So, Mr. Karim, could you please tell us, you came in Turkey, how do you actually find Turkey, and what was your purposes to come in here, and how you think this that purpose is to reconnect with your academia and your research?
I think other than academia, Turkey is a fascinating place to study and to research because it's on the crossroads of different civilizations, different continents, different cultures, different languages. So such places which lie at the frontiers of multiple cross-cultural roads, they are a fascinating point of study. But from another perspective, of course, me being a Pakistani, we have a very rich historical bond of friendship and brotherhood with Turkey, and the bond extends to the Ottoman time, and then it continued during the early, of course, the Republican times, and then both states they have shared political, security, strategic, and definitely cultural bonds throughout those years. So just trying to go beyond that awareness of Turkey, I think that's the first reason which brought me to Turkey. But once I was here, I got a lot of friends, and then now I can say I am coming into Turkey for my friends, more and less for other purposes like research or studying or other things. But definitely, I work on Middle East. I work on Middle Eastern international relations, Middle Eastern politics, Middle Eastern history, and you cannot understand them in any way without reading and without working and without researching Turkey.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons how my academic career is related with my travels to Turkey.
Thank you, Vivek. It shows like your interest and your specialization or works that how you relate and Middle East. Even as I like try to focus on your academic background, as I see like you also relate academic issue and research issue with Pakistan, especially the Pakistan role in the Middle East, Pakistan role and relation with Saudi Arabia, Pakistan's role with Afghanistan, Pakistan's role on our perspectives on Kashmir and Pakistan-India relations over the Kashmir issue, even the Pakistan and Chinese the recent relations and movement. So that the whole area there you are actually focusing, and it shows us like even I believe that our audience and viewers, they will get much more information by your scholarly speeches and your things that you will share with us. By the way, as you told, like you came in Turkey and you are focusing on the issue. My first question actually to you, like why you think this Pakistan is really the matter, especially if we can say like the from economic or cultural, political and defense perspective?
I think Pakistan really matters a lot when it comes to Middle East, because just like Turkey, Pakistan also lies at crossroads of continents, crossroads of different cultures. So Pakistan is basically the bridge which connects Central and Western Asia to South Asia and then broader East Asia region. So Pakistan is important in this regard. Then Pakistan is one of the unique countries that has extensive political, security and strategic ties with multiple countries in the Middle East. Pakistan has excellent ties, of course, with Turkey. Pakistani security circles have very good ties with the Turkish military. Pakistan has very good ties with Saudi Arabia and other Gulf nations, and definitely Pakistan shares a border with Iran and Afghanistan. So you cannot actually cut out Pakistan from Middle East because of these shared political relationships and the cultural bonds that have existed since very long, since the time of course, when Indian subcontinent was ruled by the British. So the Muslims of Indian subcontinent, they had this sort of brotherhood feeling for the Muslims living under the Ottoman Caliphate, and afterwards this dimension or this dynamic didn't change even when new Muslim states emerged on the map of the region. So Pakistan in a way is spiritually connected with Middle East, and Pakistani soul, the national soul of Pakistan, because Pakistan of course was founded on the name of Islam, so you cannot detach it from Middle East. And a lot of other aspects of the Pakistani culture, society, you can find them being harmonious with different cultures and different parts of the Middle East.
So like the Pakistan, so if we see that the geostrategic position of Pakistan and that their geographical location and the relations between their neighbors, especially with China, I mean the new relation and due tremendous check and balance relation, especially in last decades, so when the Pakistans moved their alliances from USA towards to China. So how do you see this? Is it really matter this Pakistan to make the relations and to fact the relation between the Pakistan and China and Pakistan and American relation?
I think Pakistan always had very friendly ties with China, but Pakistan's ties or relationship with US have been very episodic. So like they have varied from time to time. Sometimes the two states, Pakistan and US, they became very close because of strategic necessities. At other times, they had differences, again based on strategic necessities. While the thing which is different in case of China is Pakistan's neighbor. China is directly connected with Pakistan in a geographical manner. So we cannot ignore China. And the other thing is, we don't disagree with China on any of the strategic or security matters of the region. So definitely our ties with China, I would say, they have remained more consistent and have only improved. Of course, now with the level of defense and security partnership, China is a strategic partner of Pakistan. But because of shared strategic goals, specifically now under the Trump administration, Pakistan-US relationship is also seeing a rapprochement. And I wouldn't say that the relationship has not improved. The relationship recently has improved a lot.
I just, on this statement, I just want to add one thing. This in Council for Foreign Relations, they mentioned one statement in their last article. It's about this, the President of United States, Donald Trump, he said one speech, and as they said, like, when the president turned to India-Pakistan tensions, things became even more free-form. In response to a question from the press about whether Khan would ask Trump for help on Kashmir, Khan said that only the most powerful state could bring the two countries, India and Pakistan, together. Trump then said, I was with Prime Minister Modi 2 weeks ago, actually it means at the G20 meeting, and we talked about this subject, and he actually said, would you like to be a mediator or arbitrator? And I said, where? And he said, Kashmir. I think they would like to see it resolved, and you would like to see it resolved. And if I can help, I would love to be a mediator. So all this statement, actually, how do you see this, as you also mentioned, the rapprochement and also the strategic relations with Pakistan and US is also growing. So do you think that this statement and the current scenario, it shows like the Pakistan and US relations and the impact on Kashmir, it will be more effective and more positive way?
I think here the answer to this question lies in Trump factor. So maybe a traditional or a non-Trump US administration or US president, they might have handled such a question or any debate about Kashmir in a very different manner. But President Trump, he is very unpredictable. Sometimes he doesn't really know about things. So when he was approached on the question of Kashmir by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and especially with the additional caveat of US being the most powerful country in the world, I think it was quite natural of Trump to jump in. The other question is whether Prime Minister Modi had talked with him on the issue. As
we see, even there are the spokesperson of Indian Prime Minister, Ravish Kumar, he already denied about this issue. I mean, they said they didn't say anything. I mean, the Prime Minister of India, they didn't say anything to President of United States.
I think that makes the Indian side's statement very clear. So now maybe the American president can tweet and explain why he said that the Indian Prime Minister also talked about Kashmir. But regardless of this debate, I think if Trump has a good relationship with the Indian Prime Minister Modi, and Trump seems to get along very well with the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan. So if the Indian ego is left aside, and just in a friendly manner, if Trump can bring, I wouldn't say mediate, but if Trump can push both sides to sit together and talk, that can be helpful. But with the recent developments in Kashmir, it looks very, very difficult now. And I don't think so that Trump in any way.
Could you please, I mean, like, I think it will be, could you please mention about this issue, or like the recent development in Kashmir, this, as we also see that today, India, they cancelled the special status of Kashmir and the Kashmir state. So as a Pakistan-based or like a London-based scholar focusing on the South Asia, how do you see this development that's taken by the Indian administration?
I think this is a terrible development. And I fail to understand why Indian government or why Indian power circles, policy circles have taken this step. Because all the political elements in Indian Kashmir, Indian administered Kashmir, who were pro-India or who wanted to engage with India, now they have no point at all to engage with India. Their whole rationale of politics is lost. The other thing is by revoking this special status, now India cannot lay any claim to the Kashmir, part of Kashmir on the Pakistani side, because now India treats Kashmir in a different geographical manner. So the three parts of Kashmir, one part of Ladakh has been already removed from the formerly state of Jammu and Kashmir and made a separate union territory. And the other thing which is very important is that this step can actually now allow outsiders to settle in Kashmir, to buy property, and eventually the demographic balance of Kashmir can be changed to alter its Muslim majority. All these things, I don't understand how can they in any way contribute towards peace and stability in the region. So therefore, I think that this is a terrible decision. Why has this decision been taken? I guess the Indians became nervous that maybe Donald Trump can put some pressure on them, or that pressure they may not be able to handle. So they thought, okay, just create a situation where if somebody tries to mediate or puts pressure on them, they can actually tell the person that the matter has already been closed because it's not anymore a special part of the Indian state. It's actually a normal part of the Indian state, which is ruled by Indian laws.
As you previously mentioned, like the China and Pakistan relations, as you also said, that as a neighborhood, you have I know Pakistan has a very good relations. I mean, from since the history. So why not India, and also we can say the another neighbor country like Afghanistan and also Iran, because as we see there is a mistrust, misunderstanding, and so many measurement that takes these countries. I mean, the Pakistan's position, Pakistan's importance to make a more rising power, more important position in international politics. For example, Pakistan, they don't have a trustable position in India. Pakistan, they don't have a problem. Pakistan have a problem with Iran. Pakistan has a problem also with Afghanistan. So how do you see this kind of problem where the Pakistan has a good relation with China?
I think Pakistan has a good relationship with China because Pakistan doesn't have any strategic or security clash with China. Not at this time, but throughout history, there has never been any issue in terms of politics with China. We settled our border demarcation in a very amicable manner, but our other neighbors, Afghanistan, from day one, we had a very uneasy and sometimes hostile relationship with Afghanistan. Of course, with India, the relationship you know very well, it's never been good. With Iran, I would say the relationship was excellent till the time of Reza Shah Pahlavi. But since the removal of Pahlavi regime in Iran, the new rulers, their intervention in Pakistan in terms of influencing the Shia political identity within the country, that has created a lack of trust between the two sides. I think Pakistan is communicating with Iran, engaging with Iran, but unless there is a fundamental understanding between the two sides that what they can do and what they shouldn't do, the relationship will not improve. With Afghanistan, I would say there are certain factions and political groupings within Afghanistan that are pro-Pakistan, and there are others that are against Pakistan. So in that manner, Pakistan would have a good relationship with Afghanistan when the pro-Pakistan elements are in power, and Pakistan's relationship would be negative with Afghanistan when the anti-Pakistan elements are in power. Regarding India, I don't think so that under Prime Minister Modi there can be any good relationship between the two states, because both sides now see each other clearly as an active security threat, and both sides are ready to take measures to counter such a threat. And actually both sides now, with this sort of rise of social media and mass media channels, it's very difficult to contain war euphoria, war hysteria, whenever there is a bit of tension between the two sides. So I don't understand how this particular relationship can improve. I would say the Pakistani side, and I am saying it with full confidence, that they have, they do have an aim, and they are ready to connect with India, to engage with India, and to talk with them. But the Indian side seems to have no such aptitude on their part.
But before the election in India, I mean this in that time the Prime Minister Khan, he said it will be more good to make a peaceful relations if BJP government came to the power. So how do you see this kind of statement given by this Prime Minister of Pakistan?
I think the statement is given in the context that we can make peace, or we can reach a settlement if we can make peace or reach a settlement with the most hardline segments of the Indian political environment, those agreements or those understandings would be more long lasting. If there is another government which represents more a moderate turn or a moderate trend in Indian politics, then any understanding reached with them may be overturned when a more hardline faction, a more hardline political grouping, or a more hardline political party gets into power. That's why, if you see historically, Pakistan engaged with India and was close to getting onto an agreement with India during the time of Prime Minister Vajpayee, who was also a BJP Prime Minister. And matters didn't really change during the governments of Congress, although Congress represented a moderate, more secular, liberal faction or side of Indian politics. So probably it's the rationale behind what Prime Minister Khan said was that if Modi has the backing of the Indian electorate, then it's better to sit with him and to talk through things and maybe to reach a compromise or reach an agreement, rather than talking with somebody who is not really backed by a wider section of Indian society. And as we have seen, Modi definitely has gotten a very huge and sizable mandate. But whether he would like to talk with Pakistan, that's another question.
Yeah, that's a very important thing actually for this region. If we say the charismatic and the populist, or from whatever the perspective, this kind of terminology in this new world order, the Pakistan Prime Minister, he is also the charismatic leadership in Pakistan and also beyond. And on the other hand, the Indian's Prime Minister, he has also the very good, the charismatic leadership in India and also beyond. By the way, like again to ask you one more question about the Pakistan and Afghanistan. In your last article, you said that Afghanistan now becomes the catalytic issue to test the Pakistani and US approachment. Any peace settlement there would strengthen Khan's persona as a regional builder of peace and security. Even if this is not immediate, Pakistan's presence at the head of negotiation yields political capital. So in this issue, it's very clear. As you try to mention, like the approachment between the Pakistan and USA, and so you also argue like the US just want to withdraw their soldiers. From the field of Afghanistan. So do you think if USA withdraw their soldiers, it will be more peaceful situation for Afghanistan, and in that case, Pakistan will give. They will have more impacts and effects on Afghanistan politics, and to make it also Afghanistan-Pakistan relations. And to connect it, I want to ask you, this India, they have a very good relations and good impacts on Afghanistan current government. Mm-hmm. So this tremendous, the situation, how do you think, and to make a more peaceful way rather than conflict?
I think a good answer to this question is that the US for more than 18 years now has tried one policy, and that policy has failed to yield any sort of solution to the Afghan problem. And eventually now the US administration, and specifically President Trump, he seems to arrive, he has arrived on the conclusion that the only solution to the Afghan process is political, where the Taliban and all other stakeholders, including the Afghan government, they sit together and reach an agreement. I think unless the Taliban, they are not part of the Afghan state or the mechanisms which govern Afghanistan, the power structures which are holding Afghanistan, there won't be any peace. Yes, I think NATO forces, once they leave, the Taliban could be in a potentially stronger position. But what I also see is that the NATO forces would only leave when there would be an agreement. And the Taliban, they don't really want now to be seen as a ultra-jihadi grouping, thumping Sharia everywhere. They want to be seen as somebody or as a constituency which can deliver to their own very particular support base. So that's why it's very important for the Taliban as well to reach out to some sort of a political agreement or a political peace. Definitely, in such a political agreement, there would be losers and there would be gainers. Taliban are definitely gaining in this, because one reason is that for the last 18 years, they were not co-opted by the outside powers. So this made their hand more strong on the ground. So now currently the leverage of NATO forces or US remains relatively lower against Taliban, because for 18 years they have tried to establish a strong Afghan government, but it has failed to govern, it has failed to entrench itself within the societal fold and political fold of Afghanistan. And many Afghans, they are full of distrust towards their government, while the Taliban, they were never part of the Afghan state, so they were never held accountable.
Exactly.
And because they were never held accountable, they were always they managed to retain their to some extent positive, maybe it's not positive for us, but for local communities, their positive outsider image throughout this time, that Taliban are the force which may provide social justice, which may stand against corrupt officials, or which may come and eventually rule the area. So people considered or started considering Taliban as a political and military reality after 18 years because of the failure of the Western approach in Afghanistan.
So, like again, this the question that I asked you. Even also, I just want to mention something like the Afghanistan-based scholar or who are, looking to the Afghan government, current government. They try to argue like this way: Afghanistan's security, especially the Taliban, they are helped by Pakistan intelligence service and Pakistan security forces. So, what will be the standpoint of you, like to see this kind of approachment taken as a consideration, the one thing, and the second, as I asked you, the India's position in Afghanistan. If Taliban gained after the peace process, that's what the US want to withdraw their forces, then it shows that India will be the loser in Afghanistan. Then these two things, how you will explain?
So regarding the first thing, I would say that Pakistan was well connected with the Taliban. Of course, Pakistan backed the Taliban in the 1990s. So as the US, like Taliban were allowed to rule Afghanistan by the West. Afterwards, after 9/11, when a new government was formed in Afghanistan, Pakistan tried to connect with them. But those successive Afghan governments, they always tried to sabotage law and order and security situation within Pakistan, and they were always on very good terms with India at the cost of relationship with Pakistan. So in a way, it can be argued that political factions within Afghanistan that had been ruling the country for last 18 years, they have not made a serious attempt to engage with Islamabad and to redress its own strategic concerns towards Afghanistan. If, let's say, if consecutive Afghan presidents and different political factions within Afghanistan who are part of the Afghan government, they had made a sincere effort to engage with Pakistan, and if they could have delivered this message to Pakistan that their engagement with India is not at the cost of relationship with Pakistan, I think things would have been relatively better. But Pakistan was virtually left in a position where the only force it can bet on, the only force it can engage with, were the Taliban. And now Pakistan's strategic policy is paying dividends, because the Afghan government, it has come out as thoroughly inept, completely corrupt, it has failed at governance, and it has contributed towards actually poverty in Afghanistan. While the Taliban, they have sustained their forces and they have evolved as a political force. So right now, if you see things from a clearly balance of power perspective, Pakistan's strategy has worked. Regarding India, I would say for India, Afghanistan was always a theater which it can use to weaken Pakistan or to attack Pakistan or to create a third front against Pakistan. So India's engagement in Afghanistan was never positive to start with. And if India was not positively engaging with Afghanistan, then there shouldn't be any point of India's presence within Afghanistan. So what is coming up now, or what is emerging now, is the failure of this Indian approach, because the actors on which Pakistan placed its bets, they have come out as strategically successful.
Let's come to the Pakistan's role and Pakistan relations in Middle East, especially with Saudi Arabia. And as I already know, you worked as a visiting scholar in Saudi Arabia, and even also you mentioned in your one article that the Mohammed bin Salman's when he went to the Pakistan, he said like he as an ambassador for Pakistan. So like, how do you think that this kind of things and also Pakistan, they are sending their troops, their forces to Saudi Arabia, and like that's what's the Islamic net or Islamic something like. How do you think this kind of things are good for Middle East peace? Also, the Pakistan role in Middle East.
I think Pakistan again has maintained security and political ties with various military, with various Middle Eastern countries since very long. With Saudi Arabia, of course, the ties stretch since 1960s, and since then these ties have only improved. Pakistan's first military commitment within Saudi Arabia was during the Iran-Iraq war years, and since then Pakistan military and of course political circles, they have developed a special relationship with Saudi Arabia, because Pakistan is a Muslim country. For Saudi Arabia, it is relatively easier to depend upon Pakistan or to. But
it shows, this like they have the Saudi Arabia, they are still engaged with some war like in Yemen, and also they have involvement in Syria. So in that case, like to argue on the Muslim or how do you see these things?
So one objective of Pakistan when it comes to its engagement with Middle East is to not get involved within the conflicts of the region. So our commitment with Saudi Arabia is to defend its territorial integrity and its borders against any external threat. But that doesn't mean that we would contribute towards anything outside Saudi borders towards Saudi Arabia. Like, our commitments are only limited to the defense of Saudi land. Saying this, I know that we are strategic partners of Saudi Arabia. When our army chief becomes chief of the Islamic NATO or the Islamic military alliance to fight terrorism, it shows the nature of understanding, the nature of shared threat perceptions. But it doesn't necessarily comes at a cost of breaking up ties or at a cost of compromising ties with other Middle Eastern actors.
Okay, Mr. Karim, our time almost is going to finish. Like, I want to ask you the last question, if you give us like very short way, the Pakistan and Turkey strategic relations. How do you see that the Pakistan can make this kind of thing, and which will make more good relation with Pakistan and Turkey?
I think the Pakistan-Turkey relationship, in terms of the strategic orientation, they're going in the right direction. Pakistan has bought 4 corvettes from Turkey. Pakistan has also got the attack helicopters. But you also need to keep in mind that Pakistan-Turkey military relationship, it's very old. Both sides have been doing joint training exercises. The general staffs, they have been visiting since long. A lot of Pakistani military personnel, they have trained in Turkey. So the ties go far beyond. And the thing at central of this new or this traditional security or strategic cooperation is trust. Pakistanis trust Turkey in terms of their threat perception.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Karim, and it's really outstanding discussion and topic that you already give us information about the Pakistan role in the Middle East, Pakistan and US relations, Pakistan's role in the Afghanistan and the beyond, and also Pakistan's role in Kashmir and the India-Pakistan relations with the Pakistan-China relations. Thank you so much to come to our program and to give your scholarly comments, and thank you our viewers to be with us and I would like to welcome you to be with us to watch our program Natural Civilization at Natural TV. Stay tuned.